Now I'm just waiting for that battery check. I don't even play. I don't even play.
Madam Chair, we live.
Thank you. Call to order. Today is March 12th, 2024, and the time is 5:13 p.m. I'm calling to order the Baldwin Park Stakeholders Oversight Committee regular meeting. Pastor Jackson, can you please lead us in an invocation?
Heavenly Father, we come before you right now in the name of the Lord. We just praise you and thank you, Lord. We need your wisdom and knowledge in the decisions that we make for the betterment of our city, Lord. And so go before us and make the crooked places straight, Lord, and open up our heart and the mind that we may know exactly what we're doing and how we're doing for the betterment of the city. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now, if I can get everyone to please stand, face the flag, and put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chief Deputy City Clerk, Ms. Quinones, can I please get a roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair. Chair Lara,
Here.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Here.
Member Hernandez, Member Marta Cárcamo,
Here.
Member Orozco,
Here.
Member Rodriguez,
Here.
Member Van Wyn.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this moment, we will open public communications. Chief Deputy City Clerk Quinones, was there anyone looking to speak?
We didn't receive any.
Okay. Being that, is there anyone in the audience right now wishing to speak?
Don Rios, resident. One of the things that I've noticed and I saw the council meeting this past week, and there's around $6 million. That true, Daddy? And one of the things that supposed to go back to the community, and it's supposed to be enhance the children. That's why we put that initiative. And I've gone around different National American East Side. Amount of money that they're charging the kids to play, totally ridiculous. But you use some of that money and put it back into the community. The speed bump that the young ladies talked about on Puente, we should look at that. I just talked to Sam right now, and there's another speed bump that and he's going to investigate it. But that's been in the works for the past 4 years. That money that we're using is not to get interest into it. It's to go back into the community, enhance the community. And we're not doing that. It's just going into an account, and we're not doing nothing for the. We have to look at the potholes and everything that the community needs to enhance. A park. We need to do more for children and more for the people that are my age, elderly person. It goes back into, that's what it was meant for. This was one of the reasons that committee that we had That's why I bow out of it, because I saw this coming. We're not using that money. We need to use it, the community. That's why we put those taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that is wishing to speak at this time?
Jesse Plata, President of the community. I would like to thank all of you taking part. A lot of people don't take part in their government, city, whatever. Fortunately, we hardly don't have any residents showing up. Last meeting, what I saw, going through the agenda, what was on there, I think following up, not that we talked about it, but we said, we're supposed to represent the community and go out there once. Have access to that or contact with the community, and I myself or a lot of people. Point was that last meeting, our CO came your agenda that you followed through on it. That the way it's supposed to work? I don't think so. I think you are supposed to have say in it. Agenda was handed, I think what took place, the agenda was handed to you that same day. You had no idea what the community wants, or even for you to think about it. Now, future, money that's gonna go ahead of time. The agenda, what's on there, you should have a say to what's being put in on there. Now, the money did go into something of very importance. That was correct. But the agenda, we should have an input to how it's going to take, how the meeting conducted. Now, every time I get anything from the city, it's there about having round back meet. Now, it seems to me, when they had their meeting, they talked about what they wanted, came here with prices, fitted them to you. Don't have that option. You should be asking. How come you're not involved with that prior? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one else is looking to speak, we will now move to close public communication. Next, we will move on to new business.
Madam Chair, this section would normally be in at the end of the agenda. I wonder whether you have to take an action to take it out of order unless you want to take it up now. The stakeholder oversight, staff request and communications. I do have some communications to bring up, but may be more appropriate toward the end. Madam City Clerk, do they have to take action to take it out of order?
No, they don't.
So if you can bring the public comments at the end of, before adjournment.
I'm sorry, Enrique. So what are we moving?
You know, following public comments, you see on there stakeholders, oversight committee and members and staff requests and
Oh, yes.
communications.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see. I'm following another piece of paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that normally would be at the end, and I'm asking for you to take it up at the end.
Okay. So you want us to plug it back in at the end and we can proceed with new business?
Yep, right before adjournment.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay. So then with that said, we will proceed to new business to item 1, proposal request for Measure BP funding, Public Works Department, the bus stop ADA. And also one and also one crew cab pickup truck and one backhoe.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. If I may introduce the request. As you may recall, you started taking in requests for funding proposals. In this round, you're taking them from the city departments. All of this follows the many community meetings that the SOC held at the community, and where we gathered input and ideas of how the money can be best spent. So you also assembled a guiding document that is the investment opportunity priorities that in every way guides what proposals you receive. So you have approved requests from the police department. You have approved requests for the development of a council report or a sports complex. In today's meeting, Public Works gets to be the lucky department. But by and large, and it should always be the case that what we bring forward to you are essential services, important high priority requests. And while they are being submitted by departments, in the end, they're all for the benefit of the community. So in the case of Public Works, as you read earlier, we have three items, three items under the one request. And whether anybody rides the bus or not, we know we have a city-run transit system, and we have the regional transit system, the Foothill Transit that operates in our city. Now, folks make use of the bus stops to be able to use the bus system, and that means they're designated stops. While the ADA was passed some time ago, frankly, not all of the stops are upgraded to ADA standards for, wheelchair and other disability accessibility, including for, kids, I should say parents with a stroller, for example. And so the request asked for funding to be able to upgrade all of the stops in the city, bus stops in the city, to at least an ADA minimum standard. And what the department is saying is that every stop will have at least the flat concrete pad that's got to be, if not level, at no more than a certain grade. I think it has to be level. And it will have a bench, and it will have signage. Some of the stops don't have signage, so people have to kind of guess, well, this must be a bus stop. So that's at a minimum. It will also include improvements to the sidewalk immediately around the bus stop. The second request is for a full-size crew cab. Our field operations deploy in groups, 3 or 4, depending on the size of the crew, and they have to bring with them tools and supplies for the day assignment. It makes no sense that they leave for the day and they have to keep coming back to get supplies and tools. So the truck has to be fully equipped with their tools. So this truck will serve that purpose. And then third will be the purchase of a backhoe loader, now more generically called a Kubota tractor. In my age, they were called Bobcats. in my era, little Bobcats. Now they're called Kubota, right? That's become sort of the generic name. Anyway, that's their request. But Public Works has prepared a very nice presentation for you that will elaborate with more details. And at this time, Sam and Romani and Anthony. Please come on up.
Can everybody hear me?
Oh, and Fernando.
I don't know if the mic is on, but can everybody hear me?
Can you try the other one? Yes, perfect.
I was on the wrong mic. Good evening, committee members and staff. It is my pleasure to come and present to you our funding request. But first, I would like to thank the committee to give us the opportunity to present to you the funding request. Staff and I have prepared a presentation to walk you through the requests and the importance of the request. And after the presentation, we would like to open it up for questions, particularly questions regarding funding and why Measure BP and not other funds. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Romani, who's going to start off the presentation, and then we have other staff members discussing some of those funding requests. Romani?
Good evening, committee members. My name is Romani Baselius. I'm the engineering manager from Public Works. Today, we're going to have a presentation for you. Let's start first by explaining what is the content of our presentation. We're going to start first by talking about the funding requests we're asking for tonight. Also, we're going to talk about the bus stop enhancement project, then the pickup truck and Kubota tractor, and finally questions. So actually, we attended last meeting and we learned a lot from that last meeting. What kind of questions you're looking to be answered, what exactly in every project, what's the key points looking for, and that's what we try to address in this presentation. So starting with funding requests. So the total request is about $500,000. Out of this number, we're asking for about $322,000 for the bus stop enhancement, which represents about 64% of the total request. We're also asking for the pickup truck, which is going to cost about $75,000 over 5 years lease, which represents about 15% of our request tonight. We're moving on to our Kubota tractor, which is going to cost about $59,000 to purchase, and it's going to cost about 12% of our request. Finally, we're asking for contingency for all of the 3 items, just in case for construction and purchase, we have a contingency of about $45,000, which represents about 9% of our request. Moving on to our bus stops requirement project, there are a total of about 87 bus stops across our city. And per code, we need to make all of them ADA compliance. So we actually, once we get the fund under this project we're proposing tonight, we would like to build a concrete pad wide enough for a wheelchair access, a bench, and a signpost, and improving the sidewalk for all those locations. For most of them, actually half of the locations, what we were looking for for the project. And so no trip hazard, no broken sidewalk to address all of them. We actually completed 2 projects before, and we finished about half of those locations, and the money we're looking for is to address the rest of them. We are going to bring in matching funds from CDBG and special funds. So the money we're requesting tonight, we're gonna have more fund to complete the project. All right. What is the importance of this project? That's why we want to represent, why we selected this project out of many. So first, improving bus stops for ADA compliance reflects a commitment to treating all individuals with dignity, respect, and regardless of their disabilities or abilities. It's easier for individuals with mobility like limitation to navigate and use our public transportation independently. Finally, again, as I mentioned before, compliance with ADA regulations is a legal requirement for public entities. All right. The funding request includes, as I said, contingency as well. And finally, for the bus stops, maintenance cost will be covered by existing operation funding source. We're not coming back again to ask for maintenance. Whatever we ask for tonight gonna include construction, contingency, and no maintenance for the future. All right, moving on, I would like to move to Anthony Vasquez to present the next item.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Anthony Vasquez. I'm the Public Works Maintenance Manager for the City of Baldwin Park. Today, I will be talking to you about our request for a brand new F-250 crew cab pickup truck. The truck it will replace is a 2003 heavy-duty Chevy 2500 HD extended cab. The crew cab gives us more flexibility to carry additional personnel. Not sure if everyone here is familiar with the extended cab. I know I don't fit behind the extended cab. It's a tight fit, so the crew cab allows more flexibility, more leg room for additional staff members to work. Why now? The current truck is a 2003 Chevy truck, has 159,000 miles. It's just constantly in the shop. It just came out of the shop for a water pump. Now it's having issues with a instrument cluster panel for the speedometer and whatnot. The importance. It's essential for the maintenance and of city parks and beautification of city streets. This particular truck will be assigned to the Parks Maintenance Division. The heavy-duty truck provides necessary mobility and transportation personnel, equipment, and facilitating timely response to emergencies, routine maintenance, and infrastructure repairs. The maintenance will be done in-house. And of course, with a brand new pickup truck, there's no expensive maintenance attached to it, rather than a 2003 Chevy pickup truck where you incur heavy costs for maintenance and repairs and extended downtimes. Next, I would like to pass it over to our Public Works Supervisor, Fernando Rubio, to talk about the new request for the Kubota tractor.
Good evening. My name is Fernando Rubio, Public Works Supervisor. I'm going to speak a little bit about the Kubota tractor. The importance, it's critical to the Public Works field operations to perform maintenance, construction, and repair activities that are essential to the functionings of the city's parks and public spaces. The Kubota tractor is an essential piece of equipment that we use almost on a daily basis. This piece of equipment is the best form of being able to put that equipment on the turf to do turf maintenance, any type of irrigation repairs, utilizing it to spread moisture around the parks. The bucket in front is just it cuts down on manpower, and that in turn it's going to help us with being more efficient on our daily basis of maintenance. So this piece of equipment we have one that we're trying to replace, and we do have a lot of attachments that we have for the old one that we could use for this new one. So that's why we're kind of trying to keep with the same Kubota tractor to keep it more functioning for us. Why now? The reason being is that our Kubota tractor, it does break down a lot, and as of now, it's broken down and it needs a clutch replacement, and that clutch replacement is about $9,000. So instead of spending the $9,000 on a 21-year-old tractor, it's probably better to actually use that money for a new tractor that's going to give us 21 more years, hopefully. The maintenance, so it's going to be an extended warranty with this vehicle, with this tractor. It's going to have a 5-year warranty on it. So that's going to help out a lot. And the new tractor, it's just going to enhance our abilities to take care of our parks more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we go into questions, I do want to touch a little bit into why we're here asking the committee for funding for a Measure BP, and why not other funds? So let's start with the truck and the Kubota tractor first. These two vehicles are assigned for park maintenance, and they're only assigned for park maintenance, which has a direct community impact for us to keep our parks clean and safe for the community. The park maintenance fund is comes out of the assessment, the park assessment. We get about 980,000. However, maintenance for the parks exceeds that. And every year we subsidize this fund with general fund. And so there is no money to buy vehicles that are directly for the parks. And so that's why we think this is a good fit. For the ADA project, we get a lot of transportation funding, so it would make sense that we use that funds. However, the stops that we're talking about here, and Enrique mentioned it earlier, these are the bus stops that are for the city transit program, our own run transit program. I'll give you an example. Just a few months ago, we got a $3 million grant from Metro to do Los Angeles, which has a lot of bus stops. But the bus stop improvements are for that particular corridor because of the foothill bus. And so having to be able to use these transportation funds for our standalone stops, for example, stops where only the city bus stop, has been difficult. We've done projects in the past that has brought it up, but we still have a long way to go. In the meantime, there has been some legal challenges that we've lost. So a couple of years ago, somebody sued us for one of the bus stops not being ADA compliant. And we're in the middle of another one today. So it is very important that we get these bus stops, especially the city-owned bus stops, up to ADA standards. And with that, I would like to open it for questions. I got all of the appropriate staff members here, and we welcome your questions. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, are we talking about the Pumpkin Line and T-Line bus stops?
That is correct.
Okay, yes. Because I did a check on my side of the street where I live, in my neighborhood. And yes, there are some bus stops that they don't have the bench, they don't have concrete. And I saw one bus driver to get off the bus and help the gentleman to stand up because there was no bench, and so he sit on the curb. Yes, we need to better our bus stops. They're here in the city. They need a lot of work, and I'm sure they can use these funds they're asking for properly. As a matter of fact, I have a map.
One of the things that I would ask about in these bus stops, as you know, it's been taken over by a lot of homeless and people just lollygagging there instead of those citizens that want to get on the bus. And there has been some dangerous situations that has taken place at the bus stop. You get these things changed, are we gonna help keep that aspect of it where the citizens can safely get on the bus and get off the bus?
Yeah, so you know, I see that all the time. And actually when I first started my career in Baldwin Park, I started off by maintaining these bus shelters, and it wasn't as, 23 years ago, wasn't as bad as it is now. So like over time we've evolved the way we approach things and approach maintenance and our procedures and policies. And now we have a stronger collaboration with different departments and working with the police department, because they have now officers assigned for the homeless response team. So our staff has a direct contact with either dispatch or these two officers so that they can always ask for assistance. Specifically for the transit program, the maintenance program, they have a certain amount of certain quantity of bus stops they're expected to do per day, and not one-time visits. They have addressed and identified the so-called hotspots so that they revisit these locations multiple times. At any moment, one of us, or resident or police officer, can call our management assistant, and we send them back to that location to address that situation.
Yeah.
So also I want to add that this project is largely targeted to upgrading the stops to ADA standards, which means installing a concrete landing pad and making some sidewalk repairs and signage. We are not proposing bus shelters, which is in the case that you are referring to. The shelters provide a shelter, I guess, for the homeless to congregate. So we're not proposing bus shelters at this point. All we want to do is bring those scattered bus stops that are city-owned, that serve the city's transit system, up to ADA standards.
I have a question. So there's 87 bus stops and we've known, and they've been here in the city for forever, and they have not been up to ADA standards. Why are we just talking about this now and not when we developed or we created that problem? Because to me, I think that this we shouldn't wait until the SOC committee to bring these issues up. So I'm just curious as to why it's being brought up now here, and if it has been my question is, has it been brought up in the past to the city about this concern? Because this is a big concern.
Yes, thank you. You're absolutely right. So this issue is an ongoing issue, and it's not uncommon, and it's not targeted to only the city of Baldwin Park. A lot of cities are struggling with keeping their sidewalks and bus stops up to ADA standards. But yes, so it's been in our radar. I've been here since 2015. Since then, we've done 3 projects addressing some of the bus stops where we get funding, largely where we are at a nexus with Foothill or any other transit system. So we have had 3 projects, and I mentioned earlier we have a new project which is also going to address some of the bus stops. I think this is a good opportunity for us to be able to complete all of our bus stops so that all 87 are at that state. The bus stops we've done before have performed well, and so we want to be able to do it. And as Romani said earlier, we're only asking for partial funding. The other funding that we're going to be using is what's called CDBG funding, and that allows cities to address other ADA issues citywide. So curb and gutter, sidewalk, spandrels, anything that has to do with ADA. So we're bringing about $160,000 from that fund. And we're working with our community development and housing folks to bring in an additional 300. So this is just part of the story. And if we were to be funded today, we would be able to complete this and be done with it.
Sir, I just want to point, you haven't addressed question. The question was, why now? Why now? Like, why is the SOC now we got money, and then this is supposed to be for the community, but I feel like last month was the police, this month's public works, what's next? I feel like all these should be taken care of by the city, not us. Not us, because these are existing problems. If the SOC was not established, will these problems be continued? So the question was, why now? Did you address with the city? Did the city say no, and why? We want to know why the city say no to you first. Why us?
Yeah, let me chime in a little bit because, Board Member Niem and Board Member Estela, I hope that we're able to see that what we as departments do, it's also for the community. It's not anything that we do for ourselves. And, the question is, have we as a city been able to address all of the needs of the community? The answer is no. But to the extent that we can address some of the ones that are more urgent, even if it means that we present it as a request to the SOC, I think it's important that you consider it because, bus stops, while funds have been used in the past and the other transit operators have a similar shared obligation to maintain them and to provide ADA compliance and what have you. The fact is that we still have a good share that are not. And that keeps us as a city in a constant state of liability. And I mean, even as Sam mentioned, legal liability, because we are very vulnerable to being, found liable for not bringing them up to compliance. So in the end, it does help the city, obviously, because for every dollar that goes out for liability exposure, it's a dollar that is not being used for the community. So I hope you see that it is a greater need.
If I may just add, so I don't think my question was about, is there a need? I'm more in awe that we've waited so long because ADA requirements, I mean, I think everyone should be able to have accessibility to a bus stop, to be able to move, whether you're wheel bound, whether you're disabled or not. So to me, I'm more concerned as to why we have been waiting so long and why it's just being addressed now or considered as something that we should invest in, and why has it not been brought up in the past? I'm not wheel bound, but I know people that are, and I have people that are disabled that I know in the community. And to me, maybe I have not been as engaged, but for those people that knew that these 89 bus stops have not been accessible or made accessible for everyone, we are not being inclusive. And I'm just concerned as to why we've waited so long and why, if we've already had 2 incidents, one of already someone suing, that's probably because something happened. Why haven't we focused on fixing the issue, and why have we been waiting so long?
So I can just give you some information. I'm not sure if this is going to fully answer your question, but just to understand the whole situation, many of the locations we are asking to address tonight, when they got built long time ago, they were per ADA requirement. What happens over the time that the concrete get damaged, trip hazard, the tree roots will remove the existing one. So it's not something that you address once and you get rid of it. Today, we're going to finish a project to address these issues. In a few years from right now, we're going to have to go back again and do more work because it's not one problem. You fix it and done. It keeps happening. So either the sidewalk itself will move, the concrete will go down because there's something wrong with the pace of the street, of the sidewalk, or because of the tree roots will remove the concrete. And this problem is not only at bus stops, it's all over the city with many sidewalks. So as I said, when we built a project, like when a lot of bus stops were built before, they were built bare ADA, but the problem keeps happening.
So they were ADA compliant.
Most of them are ADA.
It's just with erosion and just natural.
Yes. So exactly as a street, you build the street brand new, and a few years from now, we're going to come and say, hey, this street needs to be replaced.
Well, thank you for the clarification, because to what I understood and what was presented was that they were not ADA compliant. So
Right now, right now. Currently, right now, they are not.
Well, currently they're not, but it's more maintenance that you're asking for to continue to keep
Exactly.
them compliant. So
Exact-
that's a little bit different,
So-
I was really shocked that nobody had addressed this, especially that, we've had incidents and lawsuits and all of that. So, I mean, I'm a healthcare advocate, so I want to make sure that we are, focusing on the things. And I do understand, Enrique, what your concern was. I think our questions were not to question if this was going back to the community, because the SOC was built for the community, and we held meetings, and I know safety and giving back to the community and making the community a safer and more equitable place, I think, for everyone, I think is at the forefront. So it's not a question of, is this request for the community? It was more about, why is it happening now versus before?
Madam Chair, if I may ask a question of clarification. Romani, so you mentioned the 87 bus stops. Are all those 87 bus stops our city bus stops for our buses only?
No, we share some of them with Foothill Transit, but I'm not sure what exactly the numbers, what is the percentage, but I can find out for you.
Yeah, definitely, because I know that there's way that we can get some type of funding for transportation funds if they are part of Foothill.
We are-
My second concern is that we just approved the one-year contract with some Southland Transit. So one of the things that we had asked for you guys to bring back was that route study, because we don't know, these routes are old. We don't know, the buses aren't being used as much as they used to. So my concern is that if we go and invest this money into all these 87 bus stops, what's going to happen if we change those routes? And then now we went from 87 to, let's just say, 67, right? We're going to spend money where we shouldn't be spending. Those are just some of the backgrounds that I want you guys to be aware of, so that you know before you guys make a decision. And then also, would this, bus stop maintenance or upgrades, would any of this be able to be covered by unrestricted funds? Because I know Public Works has a big budget of unrestricted funds. So would we be able to use some of those unrestricted funds to cover that?
So these are very good questions. Let's go one by one. The first one, we actually already applied for Foothill Transit
Okay.
this year when we got approved for more fund. But as you know, the fund they give to us is not enough to address all the locations. That's one. Number two, with STI, the bus locations that we're gonna fix right now we are not gonna start the project and complete it until we figure out with STI what is gonna be the best route. Are we gonna relocate new bus stops, or we keep the one we have? So part of the project that we're gonna address after working side to side with STI and the studies that we're gonna do. Regarding the funds, I prefer Sam is better than me to answer that question, the last one.
Okay, thank you, Romani.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to touch on what Romani was saying in terms of the bus stops for Foothill. So we did get a grant for Foothill, and it's not enough. And so next week at the council meeting, the council will consider approval of the route study, because we want to move quick on that. So it's already on the agenda it'll be presented to the council at the next council meeting on the 20th. And so we're moving fast. And so we want to be able to plan and be strategic based on the results of the study, what we're going to do, and then be able to upgrade the bus stops that we know are going to remain or are going to need the upgrades. In terms of funding, I kind of touched on it earlier, because working with a lot of the transit folks here, or MTA, they do give us money via grants to do some of the bus stops, and that's how we've been able to do the bus stops in the past. These are the scattered bus stops, the lonely bus stop that no other transit serves other than our own. And it's kind of harder to divert funding to that, and it's not enough. So we've already to answer another question, this isn't something that we just decided to do today. We've been planning on this. So what we do is in our CIP, we program funds until we get a nice nest egg and be able to put a project together. We have that, and we're using CDBG. This funding will help us do the rest of them and be able to address all of these issues at the same time while we're doing the route study.
And then, okay, so thank you for that information, Sam. So it just seems like you do have some funding, but not all of it. So you're gonna use some of the matching funds, but your overall unrestricted funds, they're not allowed to cover any of this? Because I mean, so you get unrestricted funds from, like, let's just say the gas tax, right? What is it, Measure M and all these other unrestricted funds. Are you allowed to use any of those funds to cover for these expenses or no?
So, yes and no, and it depends on the fund. So gas tax, we can't use for bus stops. That's for street improvements. We can pave the street. We can do curb and gutter. So if we had a project like that and included a bus stop in that way, then yes. Other fundings like CDBG, that allows us to address ADA issues citywide. The majority of the city is in a low-income CDBG status, so that helps us there. Other funds like the Metro Local Assistance, the Metro Local Returns, funds, we're fully programmed, and every year we have projects already that have to do that. But to answer your question, yes, we can use some of those funds. However, it'll take longer as we build that nest egg to get to the project cost that we want to reach and be able to move forward with the project.
Okay.
Sam, as an example, the bus shelter and bus stops that are on Ramona, which are shared with Foothill, those have been paid largely by Foothill.
Yes, so Foothill and what's called Proposition C, which is a local return from Metro. It's a tax initiative from the 1990s that is specific to bus routes. And so we can't use Prop C in these locations because they're not bus routes in the sense that they're, local, regional, or in that sense. But yes, Foothill and Proposition C and other restricted funds.
And then my last two questions for you, just because I didn't hear that in the presentation, is when you guys design these bus shelters, are you guys thinking about what Pastor Jackson brought up, which is or Board Jackson, Vice Chair Jackson brought up, which was the homeless issues, right? So we don't want to build these shelters to kind of make them a home shift. So are you guys going to think about putting a bar in between the benches so they're not able to sleep there? And then you mentioned signage. What type of signage are we talking about? Because that's another concern. If we spend money on that signage there, the graffiti and all of that. So I guess it would be good to give us an idea of what you guys are thinking of designing for these shelters.
Sure. So our bus shelters in our bus shelter type and styles, those have already been designed. And so we've used that design in the previous projects that we talked about before. And the bench that is part of that shelter already has the bars to prevent the sleep. But as I mentioned earlier, this project is not anticipated to include bus shelters. What we want to do with this project is just upgrade the bus stops to ADA. And in terms of signage, we're upgrading the signage of the bus sign, the bus stop sign, replacing that with newer reflective type signage, and also some of the traffic warning signage around the vicinity of the bus stop. We have yet to go out and collect what those are, but that'll be part of the project to upgrade all of the signage, make it more visible for ADA folk.
Thank you all for coming and letting us. Oh, sorry. Did you?
I just have a quick question. Our resident is asking if this is a forum where he can speak, and I don't know the answer. This is Mr. Rios.
A resident can speak?
Yeah, the resident has asked if he can speak, but I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, so that would have been in the public comment, but what's the question? Is that you, Mr. Plata? Mr. Rios? Madam Chair?
Can we? I mean, I'm trying to.
You can,
I think for the sake of adhering to the structure of the meeting, I think I'd prefer um to just move forward.
yep.
So I had a couple questions. In the report right here, it says that it will have the bus shelter, lighting, street furniture such as the benches. Again, it would just be nice to have a description of what type of bench you're thinking of, such as like, is it gonna be metal? Is it gonna be stone? Like what you're thinking, because those can all play a factor. And if we are making it accessible, some of those benches are gonna be very hot in the summer. I think it gets so I just want to keep that in mind. If those materials are gonna be like, we have those benches, but no one sits on them because they're so hot and they're gonna burn your bum if you sit on them. I would also just like see if that trash can is gonna be in everybody in all of those as well. That's something because it says in the report, but it wasn't mentioned in the presentation. And with those trash cans as well, if that's gonna be kept up in the maintenance.
Yeah, I'll let Anthony speak to the maintenance portion of it, but yeah, the material for the benches are metal. So it's a powder coated metal, so it's cooler than your typical metal, and it's perforated to allow for air to go through it, and it does have two intermediate bars that prevent for laying down or sleeping on. And I'll let Anthony speak to me.
Sorry, can you repeat the question for the maintenance?
Just because in the report right here says that you're also thinking about adding a trash can to some of these, and just if those are gonna be kept up to date with maintenance that has been factored into the overall cost.
I don't think the maintenance has anything to do with the cost, but like I know that when we do install the new trash receptacles, we have upgraded the designs to allow for, because I'm not sure if the committee members have seen the ones usually with a ring. People just tend to leave the stuff on top while versus putting it inside. So we've upgraded the top shell of some of the existing trash receptacles to have a larger opening, giving a person ability just to put in the trash inside the container rather than outside or just on top of a bench. But yeah, like constant maintenance of bus shelters is an issue that we constantly try to address on a daily basis. Sometimes we could visit the location 3 times in one day. Sometimes especially with the homeless community who are there just to take up space and just do nothing but bad things. They tend to just make an issue of it, and that's when we request additional assistance from other departments to help us take care of the situation. But a lot of the maintenance is ongoing, and at times may be visited up to 3 times a day.
But overall, the main question is they will be taken care of. Like, it's not gonna be, they're not like neglected. They won't be like forgotten about. It's already been in the routes.
It definitely will be addressed and taken care of.
I also had more questions. I'm not sure if anyone else had questions. So I also had a question about the truck. It says here that you guys currently own the truck and you want to lease it now. Why the change? What's going to happen those 5 years afterwards when the lease is up? Why did you not propose buying a new truck like you did with the sorry, I forgot what it's called, but like the Bobcat one.
Okay, yeah, because in the past we used to buy the trucks, and since purchasing a truck, it kind of leads the city to take a huge burden of financial costs. We have approximately 167 pieces of vehicles in our fleet, with 19 pieces of equipment. And that's why if you tend to see the requests from different departments, you always see around 20 to 15 years of age. And it makes it very difficult for the city to replace all these trucks at once. The lease gives us flexibility to replace 5 trucks rather than buy 1 truck. And then after the lease term has expired, we have a decision to make, either to return it at no cost to the city, buy it out and own it for the rest of, say, another 15 years, or return it and then get a new lease. And then with the leasing program, it allows the city to attain additional rebates available to governments, while myself, I wouldn't be able to get those same rebates.
Start off, the pricing for the vehicles and the Kubota, I'm very familiar with the construction industry. They're pretty much on point. Kubota's a bit high. But I understand that you already have attachments that go with it and everything else, so it's a no-brainer not to change brands and look at John Deere or Cat or something like that. So, the pricing is there. You did mention the CDB funding, and it was attached to public works, curbs, gutters, etc. What I'm worried about, we're fixing this problem, and you have 500 curbs that have orange paint on them. Okay, you're putting all this funding into this bucket, and now we have 100 lawsuits, not 2 lawsuits. So I'm worried about this being neglected for another year, 2 years, 3 years, and people on wheelchairs are still hitting curbs and flipping over on their wheelchairs on that side. So, I mean, between here and Domino's Pizza, there's probably 100 lines painted in between City Hall and the railroad tracks here. Down my street, I mean, there's trip hazards from Athol to Wendy's, probably 20 to 30 of them. So the CDBG funding is allocated for that purpose, and we're moving it into this funding for the ADAs.
Yes, so the CDBG funding is targeted towards replacing curb and gutter, sidewalk, but mostly, and what we're going to be doing mostly in this project is that the bus stops that are near a corner, and I'm sure all of you have seen corner ramps. So CDBG is used to remove those and replace them and bring them up to current standards. So as Romani was saying, a lot of those were built 20, 30 years ago. The standards for ADA have changed and have become a lot more strict. So every time we have a project in any vicinity, we are mandated to upgrade those curb ramps to ADA standards. So because we're going to be working around the bus stops, and if the downstream or the corner ramp needs to be upgraded, CDBG funds will be used to pay for that.
So you said you're also getting about $300,000 of additional funding from another entity, or?
We're in discussions with our housing folks and CDD folks on using or making a request to them. So we're making a request here for the ADA for the bus stops, and we're gonna be making a request, putting in a request for them for the curb ramps.
Okay, so that $300,000 is in request land right now. It's not done yet, correct?
They're about to.
Okay. So my question is, since we're taking it out of this funding, I know there's hundreds of curbs in Ballin Park that need assistance, curb and gutter, et cetera. Do you have an estimate, a number of what that would cost to add to this? Because we're only fixing one side of this and we're not fixing this. I wonder how much it would cost to do both.
So I don't have that number here, but I can definitely get that number and forward it to the committee. A couple of years ago, the state of California did a needs assessment statewide. And so this needs assessment helped usher in the new gas tax and things of that nature, so that cities have funding to address a lot of these issues. In that assessment, there was a question on what the estimated cost to replace and fix sidewalks is. I can tell you that I don't know the exact number, but it is a very, very high number. And so cities do not have the funding to do this. So we address it as they come. It takes time, but we try to get to it as soon as we can. And so the more funding we get, the better off we are.
So, no, the other question I had was for these 43 ramps that you're gonna be installing, et cetera, is there a time frame and ETA from start to finish, or is there an estimated time per bench that you have?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you. So we don't have an exact timeline right now. We want to get approved for what our transit route study is gonna happen. So we're if it's approved by the city council, we got about 6 months after that before we can we're with any kind of certainty know where what we're doing with our transit, where things are landing, and then move forward with the project. So it'll be within the 1 year's time.
1 year time to start the project or
To start the
big
project, yes.
start the project? Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here real fast. Okay, I think I'm good, Sam. Thanks.
Thank you.
So with the 1 year start date, how do we, if ADA compliances changes, like you all mentioned, that's one of the reasons why we're here today, we'll get an updated cost and come back to see like what we need more since if they change, or are we just keeping it as is even if it changes again?
Sam, I think if you will allow us to make real-time assessments, because to Councilmember Damian's point, the vulnerability and ADA compliance, for as long as the bus stop is in use, we're vulnerable. Whether we think we're gonna take it out of service in 6 months or a year, the fact that if it's been operating as a bus stop now, we're vulnerable. And so we will make an assessment and present it to the SOC and the city council, but the vulnerability is there. And so it's not like, we feel that, 6 months or a year. I mean, I think you all will understand that we're vulnerable.
Yeah, we'll definitely prepare plans and specifications and share it with the council and the committee.
So I have a question, and I'm just trying to understand. So you're asking for this funding, so will you hold because I understand what you're saying, Enrique, like we're liable as of right now, today, yesterday, but will you hold that money until that survey is done? Because I do understand that we're sitting ducks, so to speak. But then I also agree that if we're not using those routes anymore, because then we'll need more money.
Right. So by me saying that, let us make a real-time assessment, it'll be a matter of seeing how the council's given us direction to make a determination on the future of our local transit within a year. They'll make the decision within a year or in a year's time at the longest. And we'll look at, as we move along to see if what the probabilities are of some of the stops to the extent that we can. And then, make a determination whether we go through with any of those stops that might be probably going to be discontinued. But, just give us the ability to make that assessment almost in real time.
If I may. Enrique, I have a question. So do you think it would be best for you guys to do that assessment and then bring it back to the SOC? Or do you want them to make a decision tonight?
You can give us a recommendation with some contingencies. I mean, I know some stops really don't have any improvements. They don't even have a concrete pad. Maybe it's the very few exceptions. Don't have any improvements, don't have concrete, don't have, there, I almost feel like we're so vulnerable that we probably should improve those no matter what.
No, we are. And I think that this is something that we should have. It's kind of like the way I've been pestering you guys with the sidewalks, right? We've been in litigation with the trip and falls, and there are sidewalks that still have not been addressed. And I know that they've been like that for years.
Right.
So, my concern is why is it taking us so long to address these concerns, and we know they're there, right? But in this particular case, I think that there's a little bit more information that, I mean, when you bring it to the council, I think that I would not be comfortable making a decision unless I have more information. So I would not expect our committee members to make a decision without more information. And then one of the other questions that I have is if you have them approve this tonight, and let's just say it goes to the council in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and they approve it or we approve it, you say you're not going to start construction of this until a year. So how do we know that that expense is not going to be now, more than the 300 something thousand dollars that we're requesting? What if the cost for that now goes up an extra $100,000 and you've come for approval and the approval was 300 and what was it? Total for the 322,000 for the repairs. How do we know that that's not going to be 425 or 450,000 when construction starts in a year from now? We've had this with the Zocalo and other projects. So that's another concern of mine. If we're requesting a certain amount and we're not going to start construction until a year from now, are we going to come back and ask for more money because it went up? So I mean, in my personal opinion, if you were bringing this to us on the city council, I would request to come back with it once you've made an assessment and brought back more information, especially those bus stops that we know may be axed depending on the study. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think it's, I think we're all in the same understanding. The question is what must happen first? If we were to do a very detailed assessment of each bus stop and what is needed in each one with, some preliminary drawings or some even drawings. I mean, a lot of these bus stops are not going to necessarily require plans and specifications, correct?
Yeah, correct. Very minimal. So it's mostly going to be a location map.
Just a location map?
Yeah,
With-
and then specifications on each.
So, yeah, we can wait until we have more, a better perception of what the future of the transit can be, Councilmember Damian, Madam Chair, Councilmember Damian. But let us give it more thought and we'll bring you back the sense of urgency if we feel the urgency just on ADA compliance is such that we gotta move on them. Because I know your point.
Well, I was leaning towards that. Of course, I'll defer to my colleagues up here, but I almost wanted to consider pulling out the ADA separate from the other two items and maybe dealing with them separately, because I do feel that there's so many more questions as it pertains to this. And I know what I heard, and I'm not minimizing the liability, is if we have the opportunity to do it now, let's do it all at once, right? But I feel like if Member Damian said, if we come back and there's more money that's needed, then we're going to be in the same position. Because what if we don't have that extra or decide we're not giving that extra money, then we're doing again Band-Aids where we're just deciding where to, make those upgrades. But I don't know how my colleagues up here feel.
I mean, I agree. The study hasn't been done, and I think more detail and more drawings. And after you guys come back to the city council with the results of the study, I think we can, have more information to go by. And I also don't want to, I don't think patching or band-aiding this is going to fix any of the problems. And I do agree with you as far as separating maybe, because one thing is to go up to the ADA standards and the other thing is to purchase or to, purchase more equipment. I mean, can we perhaps look at them separately?
Yeah, you certainly can.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
So I have a question. I mean, we should always look into being in compliance with ADA. Let's say we did not have this tax initiative and we didn't have this going on for our city. How would we have handled that otherwise?
Good question. So we would be at phase 3 of that project. So we've done 2 phases already. Those phases, those were inclusive of other enhancements, not just ADA. And so that's why they were pricey. So all it means is that it's just going to take longer to do the project, and just be exposed to liability longer. It's a matter of gathering the funding and putting the project together. What we estimated today, the 322, we feel that will cover us for the year. We have learned a lot in estimating projects after COVID. So during COVID, estimating contracts and estimated contracts from the prior year were not same. They were a lot higher. Purchase prices have gone up. So we have learned a lot about the extension industry, and we are confident that we won't need to come back to ask for more funds. We are confident that this will take care of the remaining bus stops. So when I say 1 year, it's within 1 year's time so that we can, in tandem, work with our route study to make sure that we are targeting the right locations.
Okay, and I understand how important it is to be in compliance because as Councilmember Damian said, and our staff up here has says, it is a liability. We need to make sure that we're in compliance and not up for another litigation. But we just have to stop and think, you know, in the meantime, we get things approved. How else can we tackle this until we have the full information or they have the full information? Because I think that study is very important to make sure that we are, what if it turns out that you have to fix other areas and not just the ones you're counting on, that you come across something else. So I think the study is important, and the sooner we can get it done and bring it to them and bring it to the council, so we can get a better idea of how much the funding is going to be, and we get closer to the time so that we have the exact dollar amount that you're actually going to need. And in the meantime, are you going to be looking for other funding to help you with the ADA studies and all of that?
Yes, so we are looking for funding at all times. And so we have CDBG matching funds, and then we have, we're exploring that process for additional CDBG funds because those funds are specifically targeted for ADA in residential zones. So yeah, so we're constantly looking for funding. But as I mentioned before, I don't anticipate that the numbers are going to change that much, but I understand, and we can go back and put together a location map and describe exactly what stop needs what, and bring that back for consideration. When we put together this estimate, we put it in a way so that within, again, I like to give myself some buffer times, which is why I say a year, but it could be less depending on the study, that, you know, that I don't have to come back because I don't want to come back.
I think that would be great so the committee can see exactly what you're talking about, what areas you're talking about, and how much work they actually need. So they can get a better understanding and make a better decision. But again, it's up to them. Thank you.
Yeah, so what we want to do is when we put a project together, just a little bit of construction talk is right now we're going to be doing just one location. And so when you do one location, you lose the advantage of economies of scale. So when you go out to bid and you do a lot of these stops at the same time, you're going to get a much better price per location than if we keep doing this, you know, one at a time. So that's why it's important. We think that we're close to be able to bring all of the stops to, you know, ADA standards with this funding. But as the committee wishes, we will come back with a more accurate picture of the project so that it explains why we need that funding.
So, Madam Chair, if the committee would, well, I'm sorry, if you were gonna, you can do a partial approval of the other items if you're comfortable for the equipment items, and then
Well, that's what I wanted to hear back from my colleagues, if we split out for ADA to come back with more information. And if we wanted to proceed and vote on the truck and the
and the
Tractor.
and the skip loader.
May I make a comment on the bus stop? I usually get on my bike and go through all the bus stops. And there are some bus stops that they don't have no bench and no concrete at all. People, passengers are waiting for the bus. They usually lean on the tree. And the only two seats that we have is in the corner of Fairgrove and Ethel. From there on, I haven't seen any benches at all, or it will be nice if we can really approve the funds for this, because they're needed. There's dirt, there's no bench, there's no concrete. Only one, like I said, on the corner of Ethel and Fairgrove. Those are the only benches they're there, which I hope you can exchange it, because kids, they got the tendency to use it like for chalkboard, writing, everything. I wish they can. And also, as far as the trash, man, I seen city trucks taking out the trash and everything. They maintain. They have one trash on the corner of Sycamore and Fairgrove. They have another one. As a matter of fact, two on Ethel. And I always see the trucks, city trucks, taking the trash. But yes, to me, it's important to have the bench or the seats for the passengers who are waiting for the bus. Like I said before, there was a gentleman there that he got tired, and so he sat down. He had his walking cane. The bus driver was very nice of him to get off and help him up to stand up and get into the bus. Yes, the corners of the sidewalk, they do have for wheelchairs and everything. But yes, we do need to see the bench or the seats for the passengers there, and the concrete where the benches are going to be. But thank you.
Pastor Jackson?
I just feel to table it. I know it's something that is truly needed. But there's something that's not just working right with me to say, yes, let's do this right now. And I don't know why, but I do know this, like Bill said something earlier, which is true, that this expense that we have, I would like to see it moving within our community, even though this is a community involvement, and if someone get hurt, it's still going to hurt the community because the city had to pay for it. But I'd like to see something being done that our community say, yeah, now we gave up with the police department. That's essential to me, not just because I work with the police department, that we need the communication, we need the ride, we need the people. What do we truly need, and what can we work with now? That's it.
I'm not ready to vote on this. I need more information. I think we need more information. I mean, they're going to be meeting with council on next week to get more information, because the council decided that they needed more information. So I don't feel comfortable voting today.
Yeah, I'm not ready to vote on this since you are still seeking more information. If you would come back with a more detailed price or numbers, I'm not saying that this is not important. It is extremely important, but I'm not confident to vote on while you're still finding more information, if that makes sense.
I personally think this is a very urgent matter. I see why you brought it up. I just want to follow up with a question. I'm thinking of it like how you said it, kind of like buying in bulk. That this money right now is kind of, when is that bidding going to happen? That is my question, because I'm worried that if we don't vote on it today, it will increase because they missed the chance to work with these contractors. That if you're securing out, these prices are locked in today. And even if it changes from like 87 to 67, you put that money back into making sure it's not just the minimum, that is going above and beyond for the most popular stations, which I'm sure the survey will do. I think that's something important for us to consider. That yes, more information is needed, but sometimes what you need is that fund to secure it, and then the information comes later. Is that the right way? I don't know, but that's just something to consider, that sometimes opportunities are missed. And like he said, that if we do it individually and we wait, those prices might go where next time they'll be asking for 500,000, 600,000, double what we're paying now. And I just want to hear a little bit more about that, because that's something I think a lot of us missed when he was talking about. I'm not construction procurement. I don't know much about this. This is not my field of expertise. I'm speaking as a community member. I'm sure you all study, breathe, and live this 40 hours minimum a week. So please elaborate on this so we can understand, and the public here and at home can understand what that means.
Thank you. Yeah, so,
I did have one question, Sam. Go ahead. I'm
oh,
sorry.
no, I was just gonna address that. So thank you for the opportunity to continue to speak. So our plan, so we've talked a lot about the CDBG project. That was the project we were gonna use to do. That project is already 95% drawn. What we need to do is we went out for this and we looked at the bus stops. I think we have around 40 something stops, 45 or something stops. So we know which stops we're doing. We plan to update those plans to include this location. The funding that we're requesting, we penciled it out. We think that that's going to be able to do it. And we want to be able to go to bid sometime in the fall. And so if we bid in the fall, open bids in late October, I don't want to be in construction during the holidays. So we want to be in construction in January, right? So what the plan is to lock in the prices as early as possible. So we want to be able to go to bid sometime in the fall and have prices locked in by a contractor to start at the beginning of the next year. The project will be done within this 1 year's time, hopefully before March of the following year. So I hope that helps kind of put the timeline together.
I forgot one question I had. ADA compliance. We were in compliance years ago. Now we're not. Is there like a time frame they update ADA every 5 years, 7 years? Is there a number there, or is it just as they see fit? They're gonna hit us with a new compliance next year.
So yeah, it's hard to say, but it fluctuates. So we were building to ADA standards, and I'm referring specifically to within the public right of way, sidewalks and ramps at certain ADA standards, and then they got updated in 2012, and then again in 2015, and then again in 2019. So you know they do fluctuate. And as they get updated, they get more stringent.
And to be, I know you're being transparent and truthful, but just to make sure that we are not saying that we had been 100% compliant. There are some stops that have no improvement, have no concrete at them. Jorge just mentioned a couple. So I don't want to leave you with the impression that we had at some point been 100% compliant, because we were not. And we want to be 100% compliant now. So I don't want it to be like we're saying we had been 100% compliant everywhere, because there are some stops that were never improved.
May I have another question?
Yes.
For me?
Go ahead.
So I hear the urgency of fixing the ADA. I understand that. But if, let's say they were to approve this today and say, yes, we want to make sure this gets compliance and we want to move forward. If we want to be in compliance, why would you wait until the fall for the bid and not do it immediately so we can fix the problem sooner than later? Because to me, January, that's almost a whole year away. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so we're now sort of finding ourselves in sort of in procedural conflict, Councilmember Avila, because The idea was that if we got approval here and then the council would concur and approve, that we would then move on to begin with the urgency that it calls for, while being mindful on the point that Councilmember Damian brought up as to what's going to happen to some of the stops if we discontinue some of the pieces of the routes that we use for city transit. So that adds a level of sequencing complexity as to when we can do those. So our plan would be that we hold off on those while we're still moving ahead on the ones that we feel can receive the urgency because they're in a route that no matter what we believe the outcome will be of the final transit study, that those stops will continue to still operate. So it's a little bit of sort of flexibility that we thought we would exercise as the project got underway. This is not a project that requires elaborate drawings and elaborate, kind of pre-construction preparation. So we thought we could go to work immediately. Now, how long would that take is the other question. So now we're definitely going to have to try to time it so that we can inform this piece of work by whatever the transit study and the decision ultimately is of the council. How much of the existing transit system do we alter or do we eliminate? So it's, there's some,
It's very complex because the urgency doesn't
yes.
match the timeline of the work.
But we feel we can juggle the complexity of the timing on the stuff that will probably be sort of in question mark. So we would be prepared to move ahead if the SOC and the council gave us the green light, and be judicious with the money, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts, and as Councilmember Damian pointed out, one of those being the transit study, which was a result of what we were doing with the transit. So we want to be mindful of that. So when we go to bid, we're going to bid with locations that we know already need that urgent upgrade.
So I'm actually going to recommend that we split them out and we vote separately because it sounds like some members want there to be a vote. So how do we proceed to do that? Would our Chief Deputy City Clerk take a roll call on each separately?
Yeah, you can make the motion to approve only those two and only those two, and then direct us to come back with the bus stops.
Well, it sounds like some members up here do want to vote and are pushing.
The bus stops. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like we actually do need to split them out and vote on each separately.
Yeah, we could do it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment? Is there a possibility that we can go on a bus tour and go see the bus stops that we're talking about? So you can look at it and give you an idea more or less what is going to be done to those bus stops? I mean, because I don't know if you're aware of the bus stops or you ever take the city bus. I have. And I do it for the purpose to go and check the bus stops. And there's a lot of them. Like I said, there's a lot of them. They're in need of bench, the concrete, and repairs. Some of them, like I said, they don't have. The majority of the bus stops don't have no place for the person to sit. But it will be nice if we can get on the bus ourselves and take a tour. This way you give yourself an idea what is needed.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, I mean, I'm not arguing that there's a need. Like, I'm not even arguing that we shouldn't do this. I think I just do not feel comfortable voting on something where there's still pending information. Because if my responsibility was to oversee money on behalf of the community, I don't want to see that money not spent the way that it should be. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but I just don't feel like I have enough information. And so I'm not doubting what you're telling me, Jorge, and I know what you're saying, but I do even call into question, well, why hasn't the city responded to a lot of these if there's been an urgency for what it sounds like years now? And I do understand budgetary constraints. But I think that's why we actually need to separate them out and then just vote separately.
So do you want to table the bus?
Well, I don't think some of our colleagues want to table. I think they want to proceed. So
Okay.
I think we just split them out and vote. But I think regardless of the way the vote comes out, I do feel like I want more information and more information to be brought back.
I'm in agreement with you. I would table this. I need more information. I'm not ready to vote on it today. So do you want to?
So what would you recommend? I guess because I hear like some individuals do want to vote.
I would.
Would
be more of a motion to table the.
Motion to
ADA
table?
And then take the other two separately.
Okay.
So from our staff perspective, we wouldn't want you to vote no on it, so table it. You know, if you
Okay.
vote it down, we're not gonna feel
I
good.
do have a question, if I can ask one more question to the council members that are here. When the SOC was made and when we were going through the Measure BP funding this would be a assistance to the city if they're short on city works, public works, a fund, something we build, we'd be an aid to, this fund would be an aid to the city fund. I see $500,000 and you're asking $500,000 from us. You're getting a grant from here and here, but I don't see the city's portion here. So, if you could tell me where that's at, or if it's already built into your funding, because, we're basically flipping the whole bill on our side of the fence, or half the bill at least. Which I thought we were gonna be an aid to the city, not more of funding projects completely.
Yes, so let's just talk about the two vehicles first. So that is precisely what you're saying. So we don't have enough city funds. We already subsidize our park funds with the general fund. And so we don't have a targeted funding source to upgrade these vehicles, which is why they've been in our fleet for since 2003. So I think that paints the picture exactly what you're saying, which is the city's already putting in some money and we don't have enough. And so we need money to be able to purchase these vehicles to maintain the parks. So just wanted to get that out of the way. So for the bus shelters, that's a little more complex. Public Works only uses 0.25% of the general fund. So that tells you there that the majority of our projects and our funding and our operations are not coming from the general fund already. So we use a lot of special funding sources. And so what we've described here is that we're not asking the committee to fully fund the project. We're saying we're bringing in some of those funds. And so we could stop there and do a project and only do a few stops, right? But we've gone through the process. We know what we need. This will get us to a one project, bring economies of scale, good pricing, and just get it done. And then we have upgraded.
The unfortunate side is that the liability would be borne by the general fund,
It is.
not by their special fund, or not by the city special fund. They're not yours. They're the cities,
They're the
Sam.
cities.
And so, but yeah, it's very clear that you need more information and we will bring you more information.
Right.
If you continue this, we would bring you the information that you have asked for. And I think if you're ready to move on the other two items, you can approve the other two items.
Go ahead, Sasha.
Just be very clear, what I'm thinking of what everyone else is asking is just when you go to the city council meeting, I believe you said next week that you'll be asked, and the city council, you'll be asking to approve the new routes. What the timeline on that you'll be able to bring that back to us, because I think that's the main concern of our members up here.
Right. So it depends on when you want us to come back. If you want to wait until, so what we want to do is we want to know what funding we have to work with to build a project that's realistic. And that, by approving tonight, will give us that. However, if we need to come back with what stops we're actually going to do, or, identify those, that's gonna, as Councilmember Damian said, we have to be, well, I see it as doing our due diligence, right? We need to know. So we want to start that route study ASAP, right? And we think that within 2 or 3 months, we're gonna know. So we can come back at that time, and do this again. We're just trying to expedite, the process.
So then I'm gonna motion that we actually split out the ADA and table it for a future meeting date.
I will second that.
Member Hernandez,
Yes.
Member Marta Carcamo,
Yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
Member Van Wyn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara,
Yes.
motion carries.
And so now we can vote on the other two items. Is that a motion? There's a motion? Okay. So I move that we approve the tractor and the truck.
I second that.
Member Hernandez,
Yes.
Member Marta Carcamo,
Yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
Member Van Wyn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Thank you so much for being here this
Welcome.
evening.
Thank you.
We look forward to getting more information on the ADA.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And on that, Sam, I was asking the questions because these are very urgent projects, the curbs and the ADAs. I wish I had more money to give you to fix both of them at the same time. So that's what I was pushing for.
I
So,
appreciate that. Thank you.
all right.
So we'll move on to item 2, Measure BP Sales Tax Financial Update.
Good evening, committee chair and members and the council members that are present. And since last update to the financial to the Measure BP in February, we have received another 1 million and almost $5,000 in February. This huge amount, I believe, mainly is from the holidays, December and things like that, because they are always a little bit behind. And we also have make interest earning for $13,000. So it brings us to the total revenue in Measure BP fund in the amount of $5,685,700. And as of this day, we haven't incurred actual expenditures yet. This will conclude the financial update on the Measure BP. Any questions?
Do we know if everybody's already on the current tax rate as far as we know?
The what, Madam Chair?
Okay, maybe I'm asking my question incorrectly. That everyone is adhering to the new tax rate?
Oh, the vendors?
Yes.
Yeah, we followed up. If you recall, the committee had asked us to ensure that we do either monitoring or compliance. So we touch base with the state, the Office of Tax And so they do periodic checks themselves. And there's a way by which they can look at in their database, because obviously if they're paying 9.5 now, and they're still paying 9.5, they have a way of doing like table reviews and computer reviews. So we're constantly working on it. And can I say that 100% of all merchants are paying now? Probably cannot tell you that. Yeah.
However, the state, they will go back to the business owner to recall what the shortage was from. Let's say they haven't updated their system until January, and the state will be able to go back to inform them to pay back to the city.
So they have to pay back all that.
Yes.
Okay.
Probably that's one of the reason you can see a big jump in February, because most of the business in the city already comply or match the new rate. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I thought, didn't we have an expenditure approved last month that just hasn't happened yet, or is it in the making?
Yes, it hasn't happened yet. That's why it has not been recorded here.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It has been appropriated. Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll move on to item 3, Stakeholder Oversight Committee, February 13, 2024 meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll second it.
Member Hernandez,
Yes.
Member Martha Carcamo,
Yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
Member Van Wyn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. So now we'll move on to Stakeholders Oversight Committee, staff requests and communications.
So I have two items in the way of communications, Madam Chair. One is that to Board Member Greg's question about giving you a tally of what has been already approved and what council has concurred and approved from SOC. Starting next month, we will be giving you such a report so that you now will see the drawdown on the balance, what council has approved that you have recommended over to the city council. So we'll have that starting next month. And also, in line with the categories that you approved as the investment opportunity categories as guidelines for proposals and requests. And we are going to be bringing you a draft idea of creating a more accessible opportunity for the community to bring in requests for funding in the way that you were touching on, and the speakers, Mr. Plata and Mr. Rios addressed. What about direct community requests for funding? So we'll be bringing you a draft framework on how we believe the SOC can accomplish that, which can come directly from community organizations or community groups, neighborhood groups, the like, things of community enhancement or community improvement. For example, if a neighborhood would like to plant trees or do some streetscaping in their neighborhood, for example, that would be one idea that they can present. We'll make it simple. I mean, this will be all a draft for your discussion and consideration. And I expect that to take at least a couple of months of deliberations here in the group. And then we envision it being brought to the community directly in the way of community meetings for you to receive input from them as well. So anyway, that's what we intend to bring to you at the next meeting in April.
Thank you. Any questions or does anyone up here want to make any comments or requests?
Can we, I know like, what was voted on last meeting, senior community is, has this ranking, but I also want to know if there's anything we can start working on right there, because that's something that has been brought up multiple times in all the hearings, and just how do we start working on that? Whether it's like going to the senior center and talking to them about what we can suggest, or doing surveys, or I don't know, because they're very prominent, and I would like to give back in that way, or start thinking about how we handle that. My request would be if we can like start talking to the senior center about ways we can help out with money.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment? Okay. I don't know if if we're gonna be able to do that, or you guys gonna be able to do that, because the most days that people assist the senior center is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 10 o'clock, they're gone. Unless they stay for lunch. So in order to have a meeting, we have to have everybody there present. And, you know, that was good. That's gonna interfere with your job. You know, it will not interfere with me because I'm there, like Mr. Navarro is. I'm there 3 days. You know, unless I have something else to do, but I'm there 3 days. But Tuesday and Thursday, there's hardly not that many people there.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Enrique, but you know, aside from having meetings, they can bring their own proposals, correct? Once we
Correct.
establish that community.
Yeah, so the idea is to develop a system that is in place that community groups and residents can submit requests at any time. Not just, the idea of the community meetings would be to solicit input on sort of the scope of what the framework can include. You know, we talked about, for example, if a neighborhood is too dark, and you've heard this at some other community meetings, that they would like more lighting. Well, you know, it quickly gets complicated because we have street lighting assessment districts in some areas. And, you know, similar to other questions, well, is that enough funding to create the appropriate lighting for the neighborhoods? Well, you know, the obvious answer could be, well, it's not enough because otherwise there should be enough lighting. But, you know, you will get those requests, but that's important for the committee to hear. And, you know, yeah, you'll probably get requests on sidewalks, Greg. Or member Greg, because
Another,
Several already.
would we be able to do so as well as community residents and then recluse ourselves?
yeah, I think you cannot vote on him.
Correct. No, not
Yeah,
voting, but
you
we'd
would
be
have to
able
recuse
bring
yourself.
proposals as well
Yeah,
on behalf of a specific group.
yeah.
Okay.
If I,
That might be a good time for an alias. No, it's-
Madam Chair, if I may. real quick.
Yes.
I do have a question. So I know that it's always hard to get our residents out to these community meetings. So now with the launch of our new website, that's a little bit easier to, you know, go through there. Would it be a good idea for the SOC committee members to kind of come up with maybe categories or ideas of what we pretty much already know what we need in our neighborhoods, right? Like you said, for example, lighting, sidewalks, you know, trees, whatever it may be. And they can kind of just set those categories there and put some type of survey together or some type of intake form or request so that the residents themselves can just go onto the website, you know, give them a link or whatever and fill out their request there versus, because I know that once they know what the money is going to be used for, you're going to get a lot of interest. But I just don't know that the people are going to come out to give their opinions initially to the community meetings. But once it's already established and you say, this is what we're doing and this is what you can do, they're gonna go onto the website right away and fill out the request. I think that may be easier for, you know, the SOC members to vote instead of having to go out initially, get these community meetings to hear their input, because you guys saw what happened, you know, just a few months ago when you guys had those community meetings.
So you're saying put the guidelines out there, but then open proposals online so that
Yes.
people can apply directly?
Like you guys work out, you know, what guidelines you guys want to establish as far as, you know, set a limit as to the amount of money that each, you know, whatever you want to call it, grant, neighborhood, whatever it is, set a cap to it. And then set your guidelines as to what are the categories that you can, you know, choose from there, the lighting, or, you know, maybe all of the above, whatever it is that you guys come up with that discussion, already have it set, put it in a platform for our website, and then we can just blast that link everywhere and have people that are interested just go to the website and do that, versus you guys going out there again to hear the community and then just have, you know, maybe tops 10, 15 people show up. That's just my idea. I mean, I just.
No, I think I agree, Councilmember Damian, that it's a combination of both. I feel that, you know, many of our neighborhoods and residents do want to know that we're going out there to their community. So we do that at a minimum level, you know, see what the committee ultimately agrees, maybe 2, 3. But
Madam Chair,
we've been doing them by area. I think Councilmember, Board Member Jackson, you had brought up, we haven't been in the north.
that's right.
So there you go.
And we-
You
and-
see?
And we need, and what you said, Councilman, it's good. But how many people really get on that website as well? You have it now, what do you have, 1,000 on there or 500, 200?
I don't know. Are we able to track? That's a good question. Now that the new website is out, are we able to track how many visitors we're getting a day, a week, a month?
Yes,
Would
we
track
can.
that? Do you have an estimate of how much, or we don't?
No, I don't right now, but we do have the metrics. We can get that. Yes.
Also,
Recommendation, I don't know if you can hear me. Maybe this is going a little out of the scope of just requests for staff. Maybe we can add this to the agenda to have a formal discussion and make some decisions at the next meeting of establishing a process where we can get community members input online. It's bordering a little outside of what's on the agenda and what we can actually take action on.
Okay.
Madam Chair, and
Yes.
one last comment. I know Greg mentioned about sidewalks. As community members, remember that anytime we see an unsafe area, we always report it, because we can, if it's an urgency, we can't have our public works out there to fix it. There's a broken light or a broken light, those type of things, we can report it immediately as a concern, because so that has always been in place. I know I go around reporting a lot of stuff, and so if it's urgent, let's just report it. If somebody tells you, just.
Any other comments? Okay, then if there's no other comments, we'll go ahead and move to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a second?
I second it.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:05 PM. Thank you.